Shame. 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 Shame.
Shame. Okay, so in this video, I'm going to be talking about shame and how I think groups use it as a means to preserve itself by alienating certain individuals within the group. So as long as you're above the age of 3 and you're not a psychopath, chances are that we've all dealt with the feeling of shame at some point in our lives. Either the time we cheated, stole, or told a lie. Chances are that we have felt ashamed about certain things throughout our lives. So I think from those examples, we can kind of divide shame into two parts. The part where you feel ashamed about doing something that you feel is wrong, and the part where you feel shame because you've done something that society believes is wrong, and you are now facing like some sort of consequence for it from the society. And that's not to say you can't feel ashamed about something that society feels is wrong, as long as you feel is wrong as well within yourself. Initially, at the start of the video, I said as long as you're above the age of 3, then you must have dealt with this emotion. This is because at 3 years old, that's when we do begin to start developing a sort of identity for ourselves or become aware of ourselves, and we start to notice that we are, like, let's say, like I'm 3 years old or I have a brother. We start to see ourselves in relation to the community or the group that we find ourselves in, which at that age is most likely your family. And this feeling of shame is tied a lot with the value of that self within that community. And it goes back all the way to ancient times when we were riding woolly mammoths and saber-toothed tigers and shooting laser guns at T-Rexes. When we were in very, very tiny communities, and our value within those communities literally dictated our survival. So if you had done something that would reduce your value, chances are you'd either get banished or killed. If you get banished or if you get alienated by the community, you wouldn't be able to get resources, you wouldn't be able to share in the food that everyone else was gathering, and ultimately you would most likely die, and no one wants to associate with you anyway. So we have to develop a kind of sense of what our actions were going to lead to. If something that we're doing would lead to our value being reduced, then we would not want to do that. If we went ahead to do it, we'd have an emotional response of shame for doing it, which would try to prevent us from not doing that thing again. So if you stole something and you felt ashamed about it, that's because, if you were caught, the repercussions were very, very, very dire. Like, no one is going to trust you with their things around, or no one's going to leave anything with you. No one is going to want to come to you for any kind of services, and that will lead to you being, basically an outcast in the society. So you get that feeling and you realize that you probably shouldn't do something like that again. Now, that's the feeling of being ashamed of something that you do that you know is wrong. And in this case, like I said, it's also societally wrong to do something like that. Now, in the feeling of being shamed, if you did steal and then you got caught and people basically start asking, like, why did you steal it? Why did you do something like that? Blah, 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 blah. Then you'd likely feel shamed by society if they start, let's say, calling you a thief, and everyone now knows you as the thief in the community. No one is going to want anything to do with you. Like, that's just common sense. No one is going to want anything to do with you. So that is like a second form of shame, which is externally impacted on an individual. This is literally all just my like a combination of the research that I've done and also my take on the whole thing. So that feeling of being shamed comes in different ways, but mostly it's enacted by using labels. So thief, liar, cheat, all those things are labels used to let people know the value that is on this individual in the community. So if you know someone is a thief, you know how they are seen in the community. If you know someone is a liar, if you know someone is a cheat, then you know they shouldn't be trusted. Things like that. And it's very important to have those labels. However, the reason why I did make this video is because as time has passed from when we started doing things like that, it's kind of come to a point where in some cases it can become kind of toxic, the use of those labels. So let's say you're in a community and someone is wrongly accused of being a thief or being a liar, right? The person ends up getting alienated by the community, but if they end up not actually being a liar, then that's kind of unfair to them and dangerous as well. If, let's say, a small group of people have decided that they want this person to be like out of that community and they all decided to just accuse them wrongly of doing this thing, it doesn't really matter what evidence there is. Chances are that everyone else is going to just follow suit because they don't want to be on the side of the thief, or they don't want to be on the side of the liar. They want to be on the side of the community that's keeping them safe and providing food for them and everything. So I think we can see how this can easily be manipulated to do some like evil things. So yeah, like I said, I decided to make this video because I noticed that some labels have been misappropriated or being misused for kind of control. I think that's the whole purpose of using those labels in the first place. I think can also be used for some kind of control. So for example, the one that was brought to the attention of the general public a few years ago by philanthropist Amber Rose is slut shaming, right? Where women get called sluts for basically deviating from the idea that certain people had that a woman should be, right? It's like they wanted women to be wearing balaclavas, turtlenecks, and skirts that were dripping on the floor behind them as they were walking. I don't know, long sleeve turtlenecks, so I didn't clarify that, and gloves probably, I don't know. So when women began wearing things like shorts or crop tops or whatever, or letting their hair out, these people decided to give them a label, sluts. And whenever they would call someone a slut, they kind of used it as a means of, again, devaluing them and reducing their value or their worth in society, making them seem like ineligible mothers or partners. So when other women see this, they kind of think, okay, well, I shouldn't be doing what those people are doing, otherwise I'm also going to get the same treatment. And no one wants to be treated like that, especially for a very stupid reason. So that's kind of the manipulation aspect of it. It's a manipulation aspect for the community to keep its members in check. And the same thing is happening like more recently. If a guy does something nice for his girl, for example, everyone starts calling him a simp. And then before you know it, guys are going to be like, oh, well, I don't want to get called a simp, so I'm not going to do something nice for a girl. And it just spirals into some kind of stupid, pointless idea. Things like that are or can be harmful. And the one that I noticed more recently was with the Black Lives Matter movement, which is the main reason why I decided to make the video. So when the whole Black Lives Matter movement started, like back in April, after the passing of George Floyd, there was this kind of rift within the black community, especially in America, and I think maybe in general, where because of the complexity of that situation, people would have different perspectives on what Black Lives Matter was standing for example, or what it meant to be black, or just, it seemed like there was a group of people that saw being black as synonymous with being victims, and another group who refused to see it that way. And one side began like using the label, which has been around for a while, coon, to label the other side who didn't necessarily see things from their perspective. and obviously the other side was in the minority, so it was able to catch traction quickly. And for me, it didn't really make any sense, because being black is not necessarily, like, we are not a hive mind. You can't expect everyone who happens to have the same skin tone as you to think the same way that you do. If they are not preaching something that's, encouraging the hate of, or the hate or destruction or violence towards you or us, then why are you labeling them as something that is synonymous with being, or is exactly the meaning of being, a black person who is racist towards black people? You're basically calling the black person a racist for having a different kind of perspective from you, or a different way of thinking from you. And this is something that's very prevalent within groups, because if a group is a hive mind and they all think the same way, they all believe in the same things, then chances are there would be less infighting, less insurgencies, and the group will remain stable. However, some groups can have some toxic sides to them, or sides to them that should be improved. And if you have this sort of labeling shame tactic thing, where you indict anyone who seems to speak against the popular idea that might be wrong, chances are there's not going to be any improvement of that group, and it wouldn't be able to reach its full potential. It might be stable, but it's going to be stagnant, right? And you know what they say about stagnant water, stagnant things. So that's why I decided to make this video, because it was very concerning that, like I gave with the example of associating yourself with people who have been labeled a certain way, I found that there were some black people who were afraid of kind of thinking differently, or kind of seeing a more reasonable side to the whole thing, just deciding to toe the line and not say anything, just, share whatever narrative is being fed to us right now, whatever most people think, that's what we're going to go with. And obviously, yeah, because no one wants to be associated with someone whose value has been reduced in a community. No one wants to be called a coon. No one wants to be called a liar. No one wants to be called a thief. And it's scary seeing how, like, rampant it was, because everyone would just jump on it after it happened. And it seems like even people who might disagree with it just jump on it because they don't want to be seen as not agreeing with it, and then they kind of look some type of way. And yeah, I just found it so very toxic, because it's very, very dangerous to have that kind of mentality if you do want to see the group that you're within to prosper. You have to be able to address the shortcomings that are within it in order for you to move forward. If you assume that everything about it is perfect and there cannot be any kind of criticism whatsoever, you are no different from a tyrannical ruler who just chops off the head of any of the subjects who asks him to give them more than one bread a day or something like that. So yeah, that's the whole message. We should be more aware of shame tactics that groups use in order to alienate members of its group that try to speak up against it. It's not only within the group that I mentioned, it's rampant within numerous groups. Yeah. If you guys enjoyed that video, make sure to like and subscribe if you want to see more videos. And let me know what your thoughts are about this shame tactic and shame labeling in the comment section below. If you disagree with me, feel free to dislike the video or comment as well. I'm always open to having discussions about things like this. Yeah, thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time. Peace.